Hey Sam, do you know what time it is?
It's Grubbly happy hour time. Woohoo!
Woo!
I can hear the chickens running already just at the word Grubbly.
Yeah,
They
it's a
just
good
know.
thing that mine are in their coop right now because otherwise they would have like come and busted through the window.
Yeah.
My flock is like crazy excited about grubblies. So if you don't know what grubblies are black soldier fly. So they're like an alternative treat to mealworms because, like most mealworms are grown in China. I almost said made in China, but like worms aren't made,
Well,
right?
technically, they might be made in China when they're little squiggly parasite gross looking things.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Grubblies are made in America. And I especially love that they are sustainable because every pound of Grubblies you purchase equals 10 pounds of food waste that's been diverted from landfills and it offsets 7 pounds of carbon dioxide. So I'm not really good at math, but Grubblies just both sent us the trig tank, which is like 5 pounds of Grubblies. And so that's a lot of good for the environment just from those two tanks.
Oh yeah, and when you order the 1 pound bags, those bags that the Grubblies come in, those are compostable. So compostable. Why do I have so much trouble with that word?
I don't
Compostable?
know.
Yeah,
Compostable?
yeah.
Yeah.
You put it in your composter, and it turns it into yummy dirt for your garden. There you go.
Yay, circle of life. Woohoo.
I like
And
it.
I'm totally planning on using that tub to store like feed and things like that to keep the bugs out. So that tub will not be wasted because it's
Oh yeah,
glorious.
no, it's way too handy of a tub. And when you give your flock Grubblies as a treat, you're also giving them like a really nutritious treat because it's really high in calcium, which helps like create stronger eggshells and healthier yolks and all of that good stuff. So it's a treat you can give to your chickens and feel really good about.
Yeah, and there's a ton of protein in there, so it's good for their feathers, especially when they're molting and they're feeling super awkward about themselves and want to eat their feelings a little bit. It's something you can give them in
Grubblies are a
good
good thing for that.
conscience. Yes.
So Grubblies are love.
Yes. And because we love you guys and Grubbly loves you guys, we can offer you a coupon code for 20% off. Use code WINE20, WINE 20 at checkout, and you'll get 20% off. Woohoo!
Yes.
Hey, Sam.
Hey Bev, how's it going?
It's going great. And it's so
Yes.
nice that I can picture your face for real life now and not just Instagram photos.
I know, but I probably look like way better on Instagram. Just
No,
saying. Yeah.
nope,
No?
not
No?
even close. Nope. No, your
You're
Instagram
just
photos are true
saying
to
that.
form.
Oh, that's good. That is good. So are yours.
Well, it's because neither of us do filters or anything really. Or I mean, I don't know. I
Oh,
don't think you do filters. Do you
I
use
do
filters?
filters.
Oh,
Yes,
you
I
do?
do.
I hadn't noticed.
Mostly just like I like to make things crisper and do like auto
Oh.
contrast. I don't do like a ton of manipulation, but just like some lighting correction type stuff.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, I gave it away. Oh snap, Sam uses filters.
Oh no. I was mostly talking
Hashtag
about that.
unauthentic.
I was mostly talking about, that Snapchat filter, the one that makes it look like you painted your face on.
Oh yeah, I don't
Like
do that.
you don't
No.
use that one.
No,
Yeah,
no.
no.
I either actually paint my face on or just use the black and white filter if I'm feeling really bad about myself that day.
That's a great idea. I use filters sometimes for the color pop. I like
Oh,
color popping
yes.
photos because I like
Yes.
bright colors. So sometimes if my camera didn't capture it right, I color pop. So I'm like, damn, that looks too drab. We need to brighten this up a little bit. I don't usually color pop on my face though, because then you can just see the red dots and whatnot. And I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know. So, what are you drinking over there?
You would think that I would have grabbed an Illinois beer since we were just there for the Naperville Ale Fest. But
Yes.
while we were in Illinois, we went to Binny's and got a bunch of beer that we can't normally get in Ohio. And I was super excited because my husband found me Colette by Great Divide, which is the
Oh,
beer that I named my
yeah.
dog after. And it's a
Aw.
farmhouse ale. And it's got this cute little picture of a farm girl with a pitchfork on it and stuff. So that's what I'm drinking today. A Great Divide Colette Farmhouse Ale.
How cute. I like it.
What are you drinking today?
I have a Michigan beer from Rochester Mills Beer Company called Gypsy Goddess. It's a raspberry radler. It's an ale with raspberry and lemons. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of a sissy beer. It's only like, what's it say, 3.2%. So, yeah, it's kind of a baby beer, but it's a summer seasonal beer, and the can just grabbed my attention because it was like this chick with purple hair, and I was like, it's perfect.
That is pretty
So
perfect.
yeah.
Well, that's okay though. There's nothing wrong with drinking sissy beers. I like sissy beers.
No, and my body's still recovering. I can't hang like I used to. I still feel so bloated from Saturday. So it's okay if I don't get a little crazy on the pod today.
Right. Well, and you know what? I hate to tell you this. That's what happens when you turn 30. It's like the 30 clock hits, and then like suddenly your body just like doesn't hang like it did when you were in your 20s. It's like, oh, you think you can be at the bar until 2 a.m. and go to work at 8 in the morning? Not a chance. Nice try.
No, I mean, I feel like I started feeling like I was 30 when I was 25, though. So
So you were an old
just
soul
keeps getting a little
and an
worse.
old feeling.
there you go. Exactly. Exactly.
Right.
Or I just made up for it. Yeah, I feel like I just made up for my behavior. My behavior caught up to me from like 21 to 25. And now I'm just really paying for it because I used to like really not get hungover. So now I just, even like, I drank so much water before bed and I was sober when I went to bed and I still felt like bloated and huge the next day. So, yeah. But at least like no headache or anything like that. So, it could have been way worse.
Oh yeah, it definitely could have been way worse. Yeah, it was funny. My husband and I were talking about it when we woke up on Sunday, and we were like, "It's like, hey, how you feeling?" Because I was kind of expecting him to be a little hungover, because the guys like went outside and started drinking bourbon.
Yeah. Yeah.
But nope, he was fine. He slept in a little later than I think he would have normally, but yeah. We were relatively responsible adults at the Ale Fest.
Yeah, even though it looks like we didn't, drink anything.
That's right. So Sam and I both wore our lanyards, and it had like the little tickets on it for your samples. I think they were trying to let you have 18 samples at the festival.
Yeah.
And we didn't have to tear off any of our tickets. We got all of our samples for free, basically. We got to keep our cards full. I'm not really sure how we pulled that off.
I'm pretty sure it was just our like comedy routine. Like we'd go up together and we're just charming and adorable in our country girl ways.
That's
And
right.
we were just that distracting.
Well, and we only had a
So,
couple of people ask us why we were wearing matching shirts. I was expecting
Yes.
more. But no, there really weren't very many.
Well, maybe they were just, drinking behind the bar a little bit. I don't know.
Well, we weren't the only people there in matching shirts. I don't know if you noticed, there were like guy groups that had like matching shirts and stuff on too. And I guess I didn't go ask them why they were wearing matching shirts. So
That's
fair
true.
enough.
That's
Fair
true.
enough.
We weren't like totally unique in that regard.
That's true. But I did realize we had a couple of failures at the Ale Fest. We did not take enough pictures.
No,
Number one.
that happens though.
Yeah, it's because like, so you only have 4 hours there to drink, so you're trying to like take it all in and get as much in like as you possibly can and enjoy it to the fullest. And also like it's hot as balls there. Like seriously,
Yeah.
we were soaking wet from the sweat. It's like the last thing I really wanted to do was be like messing around with my purse and my phone and like pulling that out. Plus our hands were kind of full, like holding the sample cup as well. It's like you only had one hand open at all times.
Right.
Because you're
Yeah.
drinking. Yeah, so it was a little tricky. But we really should have taken a picture with the Fest Yeti.
Yeah, we kind of screwed that up.
So next year, or if we get to go to the winter one, we got to take a picture with the Fest Yeti. Because I'm
Yeah.
wearing my Fest Yeti shirt. It says Fest Yes on it.
Yeah, I wore mine yesterday. It's a pretty nice shirt.
It is.
You know,
It's super
it's soft.
comfy. And we're twinsies. We have 2 matching shirts
Yay.
now.
Well, and we're about to have like 3
That's
or
right.
more when the other shirt order comes in.
That
So,
is true. Yes, if you're listening to this, you missed out on ordering shirts. But don't worry, we already started talking about the next shirt run. So
yes.
sometime in the next few weeks, we'll start getting that together. We're kind of like behind on everything because I'm sure you noticed that we didn't have an episode last week. We just dropped our mini-sode, which was drinking Grubbly, and it was super awesome. So, yeah, we're playing catch up
Yeah, I feel
these
like
next few weeks.
if we were gonna fail, that was a good way to fail because it was still like a really good mini-sode. It wasn't like we left them with nothing,
Oh yeah, yeah. So it's
you
not
know.
a failure. Although I thought it was going to be super cool to have episode 21 be the one that we recorded after the Ale Fest, but that's all right. It's episode 20, so
Yeah,
our podcast is
next
getting
week.
close to legal drinking age.
Yes, we're slowly getting there.
Right.
We're just building up the anticipation, like when you actually turn 21. So it's fine.
Well, and like, weren't we all really drinking before we turned 21? Not that we like condone that or
I,
anything, but
I really was not though. I was such a goody two shoes, and then I just let loose.
oh, see, Sam was
Yep.
responsible.
I'm so scared of authority. Like, like, Saturday, my poor sister-in-law didn't get through the line with us at the same time, and I felt so bad, and I was like trying to like look past like the main barricade, and there's a cop right there, and I was so nervous he was gonna be like, ma'am, stop yelling for your sister-in-law. He clearly like gave 0 Fs though, like he didn't care. And even though I turned to him and went, my sister-in-law got separated from us, he's like, he's probably thinking she's already drunk, which I wasn't. I had
Nope.
had a few beverages, but I was not drunk. But yeah, so I'm just very paranoid by authority. So I just behaved myself until it was legal.
I did not. I had a fake ID and I went to the bar. I had my 20th birthday party at a
Oh,
bar.
you rebel, you.
Apparently, I was a rebel. But now I'm on the straight and narrow. I'm a rule follower for the most part now. I follow rules.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Except, putting tickets in cups,
Yeah,
while you're
that
at
was
the
for
fest.
funsies, though. I thought that that would be really cool
Yeah.
bragging rights to show that, like, our punch cards were still totally full.
We had a variety, at the very least.
We did. We had a great variety of beers, and I regret not remembering what my favorite one was because I felt like that would have been a good thing to talk
Yeah.
about.
I really
I
liked
probably should have taken some
the
notes.
blueberry goza
Oh,
from
yeah,
the
that
House
was
of
really good.
Funk. And
And
the
I had a
strawberry basil one was
I had a
good.
peach goza from the House of Funk that I really liked. And Two Brothers Brewing did a prickly pear beer of some kind,
Yes,
and
that
that was
was
super
good.
good. That was also from House of Funk. All of our favorite beers were from House of Funk.
I know. Well, there was
I'm just
another like
realizing that.
strawberry one too that was really good. That was not from House of Funk, but I can't recall where it was from.
Oh, I can't
So,
either. It was
whoops.
called like Strawberry Rita. No, that's the Bud Light one. But it
That
was a
that
straw
was
beer
not it.
something. No, that was not it. But it's a straw. It was like straw beer something. And the only reason I remember that was because the guy had like a container of fresh strawberries next to the tap, and I was like, "Ooh, look, you guys like even put strawberries next to the tap to like show like, hey, this beer is like brewed with real strawberries." And he's like, "Oh, oops, no, that's just my snack."
It was a convenient snack. He was so healthy at the beer fest. Yeah.
Which was awesome.
Well, and I accidentally like created a beer near the end of the Ale Fest too when I was over at the founders table because I was standing there with one of my brother and sister-in-law's friend, and one of the beers was an IPA, but it was like super chicken or something like that. Like it had the word chicken in it, so I had to try it. So I did, but the lady kind of tricked me and just put like a little bit in for me to try. At first I thought I was getting the other one, but I didn't. And then I was like, this one's okay. And then I was like, but let me have the other one. So she gives me that, but I still had like the aftertaste of the chicken one in my mouth. And I drank the other one and I was like, this tastes like bacon. And she's like, what? I was like, it tastes like bacon. Give me half and half. And so she did it. I was like, yeah, that's bacon. And then she tried it and she's like, oh my gosh, it does. And I was like, you're welcome. I just created you a third beer.
That's
And then I
awesome.
walked away. Like I dropped the mic. But it was like the end of the Ale Fest, and I'm sure like nobody really cared except for me. So I guess I was just really hungry by that point, and I was just tasting bacon.
Well, bacon is delicious.
It is. It really is.
And, you know, while we were there at the Ale Fest, we also got to meet Tina from Henny and Rue, which was super awesome.
Yes.
So we now have made another friend in real life that we like met online doing this crazy chicken public thing that we got going on.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of creepy. We're breaking the rules of don't talk to strangers, like on multiple different levels.
Right? I keep telling my kids not to meet strangers on the internet, and like now I'm doing it all the time, like on a regular basis. But they're chicken people, so
like,
they're safe people.
Yeah, we were in large groups, you know. It wasn't like we were meeting them at, I don't know, a Walmart parking lot or something, or in a creepy hotel room. So it was like we were being responsible in that it was a very public place.
Yes.
And she brought friends too. So maybe she was like bringing friends to shield herself just in case we were like legitimately crazy or something.
I don't blame her. That's totally legit.
Yeah. Be like, I don't know. These girls sound kind of nutty on their podcast. They might legitimately be crazy because nobody's editing them in person. So I should bring some shields. But her friends were super nice. I really liked them too.
They were, yes. So
Yeah, it was a good time. Tina from Henny and Rue is good people. I like her.
all in all, I give Tina from Henny and Rue 5 stars, and the Ale Fest 5 stars. And Sam gets 5 stars too. There we go. I just Yelp reviewed everybody.
And so does Bev. You get 5 stars and you get 5 stars. I don't give the porter potty 5 stars though.
No, the porta
I'll just throw
potty
that out
gets
there.
0 stars. 0 stars
Yeah.
from Bev on the porta potty.
And whoever used that porter potty before you gets like negative stars.
Yeah.
So
they were like
we can just leave it.
an
there.
awful human being. Don't be an awful human being
Yeah.
at the beer fest. Be a
Or
responsible
just in general
human being.
with a porter potty. Like don't be a dick.
Other people have to use that thing. Ew.
I don't know.
Like,
It's ugh.
do people just think they're being funny? Like, sometimes, I guess, like, we have sort of a strange sense of humor. Luckily, it's the same. So we get to do a podcast together.
Right.
So, I don't know. Maybe some
But-
people think that, like, actual pee and poop, like, in real life really is funny. I don't know.
Except, you know, that's like how disease spreads, so it's really not funny.
Right?
And they need to check their humor if they think that's funny. What I think is they probably started day drinking really early and just were like, because we went to the bathroom like 2 hours in. We were champs. Like, we did not break the seal for a while. But 2 hours in is still like not to the point where you should be having trouble like making it into the hole.
Yeah.
For whatever you're trying to do in there.
Right. Good point. And I mean, and even my husband and I pre-gamed before the festival. We stopped at Lou Malnati's and had pizza and beer and then walked over. So we had a beer like
That's
before we walked in.
right.
Yeah. And I still
The
managed to walk
Illuminati
myself
was
out.
following you.
Right. The
Yeah.
Illuminati.
Yes. So, guys, if we disappear after this, it's because we talked about it. Bev went and ate at Illuminati's, and I'm sorry, that sounds like Illuminati. And then we drank a beer from the Illuminati brewery, and the guy straight up told us that he brews beer for the Illuminati. And of course, he could not possibly be lying to us. It's not possible.
Yeah, no.
But you know, they might be coming for us like Eyes Wide Shut style now. I don't
We'll
know.
keep an eye out now. So if there's not an episode 21, you know why.
Sam and Bev just disappear like they went through the Bermuda Triangle or something. They're just like, poof.
Oh my goodness. Oh.
That would be weird. Now I need to knock on all sorts of wood that like you don't burn your house down or anything this week.
Right, there we go. I knocked too, just in case. I'm hoping to have a better week
Okay,
this
good.
week.
We should be fine now.
So far, I've only been
Yeah.
home for like 2 hours from like this whole traveling thing. And so far, so good. So
Good.
At least I think it's going pretty well.
Good.
Yeah. So to wrap up our alefest talk, hopefully we'll get to do it again, and hopefully more
Yeah.
people can come and say hi to us at the next one. Now that they've heard that is like a legit great time. And Naperville is a super
Yeah,
cool
it's super fun.
little suburb of Chicago. It was a beautiful little suburb. I don't know how to describe it, but yeah, their downtown was super cute. There's lots of places to stay. It wasn't overly crowded. I don't know. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Like, we live in the country for a reason, and we struggled a little bit on the freeway in all of the traffic.
Oh my
But it was a lot
God.
of fun. Like, the trip was worth it. Yeah, Sam and I were stuck in traffic on the I-94, 3 miles apart from each other, and we hadn't met yet.
Yeah.
Craziness.
It was like deeply disturbing that I was that close to you and yet so far away. And my husband's like, I'm going to try to catch up to them. And I'm like, no, you're not. Because it's like bumper to bumper. We will see them tomorrow.
Well, so there is a brewery on that exit that we got off at the McDonald's to go to the bathroom when we were at 3 minutes apart. There's a brewery at that exit. And I almost messaged you and was like, screw this traffic. Let's stop and drink at this brewery and wait the traffic out and then go on. But then I was like, no, I think the first time we meet is supposed to be at the Ale Fest. That's a better story anyways.
Yeah. And you couldn't like slow run Baywatch style to me, but I totally did
That's
to
right.
you. So, but I know if you could have, you would have. So.
Yes, if I could have, I would have. But amazingly enough, like, my leg and my back held up pretty well for a beer festival. I wasn't sure how that day was going to go. I think it was just the beer sort of like numbed everything for me,
Yeah.
which was awesome. I'll take it. And I moved around pretty well.
Yeah, you did. I was impressed. You even sat on some really low stairs and managed to get up pretty okay.
I did, yeah. So I think I'm on the mend for the most part.
So you get like extra gold stars for that day, really.
Yeah, we stopped and I got a chiro adjustment on the way home from our road trip because we drove to Van Wert on Sunday from Illinois to Van Wert because we had to pick up our daughter. And it was also, today is my father-in-law's birthday. So we celebrated his birthday last night with ice cream cake and delicious lasagna. And so we drove the rest of the day today, which was nice because it meant I got to take another day off of work, use the rest, but drive through town and get a chiro adjustment like right away since it's been 5 days since I've been adjusted.
Yeah. No, that taking that extra day off was a good call. I did not do that today. And my brain was just like I said, I wasn't really hungover, but it's like I'm such an introvert that it takes me a while to recover just from extended socialness because I don't realize like how much I actually don't talk. Like I do it while I'm at work, obviously, and when we podcast and I'm not like mute around my husband, but the amount of time that I'm actually like not talking and like doing things like chores or staring at my phone or watching TV, when you're around people all the time and you feel that need to constantly engage, like it's exhausting to me. Not because it's like bad, it's just because I need to recharge. So my brain's just not, it's not fully recovered yet, but hopefully by tomorrow I'll be good to go.
Yeah, and no, I'm the same way. I struggle like being in big groups of people for extended periods of time, for sure. So I feel you there.
Yeah, but I mean, I didn't find you exhausting though because I felt like it was just like we could have been recording the whole time. Really, like you see what you get with Bev, and I hope you do with me too. But it was like it didn't feel like the first time we were meeting, even though it was. If that makes sense.
No, that totally makes sense. Yeah, I 100% agree. In fact, I think I commented like a couple of times. I really wish I would have like brought a mini microphone so that we could have recorded something.
Oh yeah.
And that's another thing I regret. We should have gone live in the group just to like say hi, like, hey, we're together, because we're not together very often. Yeah, I know. And I just wasn't thinking. As it was, I was lucky that I got
Because
to
we
go.
were drinking.
Yeah, we were drinking, and I wasn't sure that I was even going to make it. Like, this time last week, my husband was
Yeah.
like, "There's no way we're going to a beer fest. Like, you can't even walk." And I'm like, "No, I am going to that beer fest. You are not allowed to cancel our Airbnb. We are going to make it. If I have to crawl
Miracles
through
happen.
the beer fest, I'm going to go." And yeah, so yeah. Next time we get together, we'll get to do more stuff. Hopefully, next time we get together, it'll be like at one of our farms, so we'll have more downtime and together time, so we like won't miss all the important stuff. That'll be easy to do.
Yeah.
And our
We'll
husbands
still
got
have
along
beverages,
famously.
but, Yes, that made it so much nicer. Not that I was super worried.
I wasn't either.
But it was still so nice. And like, yeah, Jared seems like the coolest dude ever, and I can totally see how you two work. And like, I can't even imagine like how fun your house is.
No, our house is
Because
mostly
the energy is just so good.
our house is pretty chaotic for the most part, which is funny because I am like a naturally quiet introverted person, but Jared like brings all of that out in me, and you bring it out in me also, which is why this podcast works so well. Because like just like talking to a bunch of strangers is something that isn't like in my personality DNA. At least I don't think it is.
But we did so well together, like talking to all these beer people, especially the one from Uncle John's cider
that's
mill,
right.
because she's like the first one that noticed we were matching. And yeah, so we talked her up for a little bit. She was cool.
She was super cool
with her cheese business.
Yeah, we've got to
her goat cheese
plug
business.
our podcast more at the next thing we're at together.
I know, we were so bad. I think we were just overwhelmed.
Yeah,
with each other's
it
presence.
Was a little overwhelming. Next time for sure. So now we're planning February, Maybelle Fest 2019.
Yes. Winter edition.
That's right.
Where we won't sweat our balls off that we don't have, but we might freeze them off.
But that's all right.
But I don't know. The past couple of years, it hasn't been too bad. Like this past one, I wore a hoodie and like an insulated vest, and I was good.
Yeah, see, that sounds wonderful.
So,
that sounds like a wonderful place to drink beer at. Like, throw a nice like knit hat on. You're golden.
Yep. But we've had the first year I went, it was like freaking tundra, freezing snow blowing, but it's intense, like with heaters and stuff. But it's I prefer the summer one for the layout. But the winter one is nice because it's a lot less sweaty.
Okay.
That's for sure.
So listeners, February. We're talking about it now. We'll figure out how to make it happen.
Last weekend in February is when that
which is like right
is.
before my birthday. So we can make it my birthday party.
Oh,
There we
perfect.
Love it.
Yeah. Woo.
Hey Sam, did you know that this episode is sponsored by Honey and Roo, which is the subscription box for chickens and their keepers?
Why, yes, I did. And I'm so excited to share it with all of our listeners. If you go to honeyandroo.com, you can get set up with a monthly subscription, which means this lovely chicken box shows up at your door every single month. And when you check out, use code DRINKANDFARM, you'll get 10% off that first box.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
All right. So I guess we'll get this episode started.
Yeah. Do you want to do some housekeeping?
Yeah, let's do some housekeeping.
Aside from the alefest?
Right. Oh, yeah, we did. We talked about the alefest, and we talked about meeting each other for the first time, which is awesome. And we already talked about our T-shirts, too. So most of our housekeeping is pretty done.
Yeah. Look at that.
We're so
almost
good.
Done.
So yes, Patreon June contributors. We will be packaging up what we're sending to you sometime in the next week or two. So we're sorry it's a little late. Bev and Sam had kind of a rough July, and we weren't quite expecting that. So we're like totally behind on everything. But we did get a couple of new June Patreon contributors. So you guys and all of the existing ones that are at the $5 level and above, they are going to get a surprise from us because we like you guys and we want to say thank you. Thank you for contributing to us on Patreon. You guys are the reason why this podcast gets to keep going because it helps us pay like our regular monthly expenses, which aren't super high, but you know, they're still there. So thank you.
Yeah. Thanks,
And
guys.
also, we need to do a drawing for a prize for all of the iTunes reviews that we got in June. So Sam will stick all of your names like into
Yes.
a wine glass or something, and then we'll go live in our group, We Drink and We Farm Things, to draw that name out, and we'll send something super awesome to you as well. And we don't know when we're gonna do that.
Yes.
It should be before this episode drops, so just in case it's not, don't hate us. Just know that it's on our list. We're working on
Yeah,
it.
it'll get done.
Yes, it'll get done. And we'll go live in the group when we do it. So if you haven't joined our group, We Drink and We Farm Things, go in there because we're gonna start doing a couple more things in there now that like I'm getting better and we're figuring some stuff out and we're working on our time management on like how to successfully run a podcast and a community and work real jobs at the same time. It's a
Yeah. It's kind of like, it's like spinning a bunch of plates at the same time,
yeah, I was
really.
gonna say something about like juggling like fireballs or something like that. But yeah, both are really
Ooh,
good.
yeah.
Both are really good. What is that? Analogies? Yeah, see, my brain is
Analogies.
fried
Yeah.
still from our weekend. Yeah,
Oh, you're fine.
really good analogies. But we're working on it, and holy shit, episode 20. Like, I mean, I'm
I
still kind of in
know.
awe of that, like, because we're in the next like set of teens, and we only do one a week,
I
plus
know.
like our mini-sodes every now and then. So, um, yeah, like from
Yeah, time
conception to like
flies.
where we're at now, I'm just totally blown away. So if you'd like
I
to join
know.
our
Me too.
Patreon, thank you. We would love that. We'll put a link in the show notes to it. You should join our group if you haven't yet.
Hmm. And you should use hashtag drink and farm when you're drinking and farming responsibly so we can potentially feature you. We do that like once a week. We might start throwing in maybe twice a week. We'll see. But I'm surprised how many people are actually using that hashtag. So thank you guys and keep it up because they're really
Oh
fun
yeah, they are. They're
pictures.
super fun. And we tried to make it a really easy hashtag for you to get involved in it. And it seems like we have succeeded in that since so many people are getting involved in it.
Yeah.
So there we go.
I don't like rules. I mean, we talked about being rule followers, but it doesn't mean I like rules. So we keep it pretty loosey goosey
Yeah,
for
I
you
only like
guys.
rules when they're required. Like, obviously, drink and farm responsibly has to be one of the rules. You can
Yeah.
drink and farm hilariously,
Yeah.
though. That's allowed. You can drink and farm
Yes.
hilariously,
Yes.
just not in a way that somebody's going to get hurt seriously.
Right. And please don't feed your animals alcohol. I've been getting tagged in a lot of that stuff on my
Oh,
Facebook about like chickens drinking wine. And it's not cute because like their crops or their, other animal stomachs can be very sensitive. And well, if it happens as an accident, that's fine. Things happen. Like my chickens have knocked over my wine before and I had to like shoo them away. But yeah, don't intentionally let your animals drink your adult
no.
beverages.
And in fact,
Please and
I saw
thanks.
some advice on one of the goat forums. It was super old advice. Like I'm talking like, 7 or 8 years old plus, but sometimes goat medical information can be kind of hard to find. Somebody had suggested that they give their goat a wheat beer for bloat. Don't do that either. I don't recommend that.
Oh,
The goat that somebody did that to ended up dying. I don't know if it's because of the beer, but yeah, they're rumen animals. So the bacteria balance in their rumen is very important. And beer, carbonated beverages, things with yeast in it, that like multiply in hot bacteria laden environments, not a good combination. So yeah, no animals get alcohol. There we go.
yes.
Bev and Sam's disclaimer.
We mean it. We mean it. Yeah. Oh, and also just because we're not giving away anything right now for reviews, we would still really, really like it if you would still leave us reviews on iTunes, rate and review. I mean, you can be as honest as you want, but we've been really lucky so far, and nobody has been like, these bitches don't know what they're talking about, but I'm sure it's coming. But we're usually pretty good about correcting ourselves when we're wrong, so hopefully we can prevent that for a while. But you never know. Things happen. But we don't mind. Freedom of speech. I mean, don't be a dick, but you can write what
Yeah,
you
I
want
mean, like,
about
don't
us.
say, like,
So,
like, if you're unhappy about the way that we look or something like that, like, that's not legit to the podcast. So that's obviously not legitimate bad feedback. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
If
just,
you hate our
yeah,
voices,
be
that's okay.
nice.
You don't have to listen. We don't like come to your
No,
house and make
you could
you.
really. No, no, we just want people that want to be here. I don't seek validation in the way of having people listen to me even if they don't like me. I don't think a
No.
lot of people do, but you never know.
We're putting ourselves out there, so
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
coming. But that's okay.
Dun, 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 dun.
Is that Jaws?
It is almost Shark. Yeah, it's almost Shark Week.
Ooh.
Well, it's Shark Fest right now on Nat Geo, which is a bunch of bullshit because they're ripping off Shark Week. But Shark Fest is like 2 weeks, and one of the weeks goes over Shark Week, which is next week. But it's like Shark Week's 30th anniversary. And if you can't tell, I love sharks. I'm a big fan. So I'm pretty excited for next week. But yeah, I envision the bad reviews coming in like the freaking Jaws shark that just eats everyone irrationally. That's kind of what I feel like it's going to be like. That was really dramatic.
That was really dramatic. But that's okay.
You know,
We're a little out of it. We traveled
It's
this
fine.
weekend.
yeah. Yeah, we went away from the farm this weekend and man, I think I'm more tired from that than I am from farm chores.
Although
So,
I'm not gonna lie, it was really nice to wake up 2 mornings in a row and not have to have farm chores or kid chores. Although full disclosure, I haven't done farm chores
Yeah.
in like a week and a half. So
but I'm sure you'd prefer farm chores
yeah,
over,
over laying in bed in pain.
you're not
Yeah.
being able to feel your
Yeah.
leg.
I'll
Yeah.
totally take farm chores over that. I miss my farm chores. I think I might be able to go out there and do some farm chores today because I am continuing to feel better and I have not had any pain medication today, which is awesome. Because I'm not going to lie, it was a little weird having to take all that pain medication while we were in the middle of the beer festival. But like I had to be able to keep functioning. I didn't want to like get to a point where suddenly like I either like totally couldn't feel my leg or I was just like doubling over in pain because that would have been kind of embarrassing. So I was like, beer and this probably
Right.
doesn't mix, but you do what you got to do. It was just Tylenol and ibuprofen. They haven't like prescribed me like hardcore or
Yeah.
anything. I was doing like muscle relaxers and stuff for a while, but my chiropractic adjustments weren't sticking because of the muscle relaxers, so I kicked those pretty fast. And I had lots of steroids, like steroid shots and like a steroid blister pack. But I'm glad those are over too, because those made me feel weird. Like my brain felt confused. I don't know how else to describe it. I don't like medication. That's where that's going.
I don't either. No. I'm not a fan.
No, me
Nope.
neither. Oh, and before I forget, I have to thank Casey for sending me some lavender simple syrup and some lavender from her garden. I'm super excited because I'm going to make one of those cocktails that she recommended to us on the group. It's lavender simple syrup and Tito's vodka and seltzer water. And in fact, I was going to make one this afternoon because I've got the lavender simple syrup now since she sent me some, but I don't have any seltzer water. I had vodka. It's not Tito's, but I had vodka and I had the simple syrup, but I didn't have any seltzer water. So I was like, oh, dang it, I can't make it today. But hopefully I'll get to go to a store and go get some seltzer water so I can try it. So thanks, Casey, for sending me those. That was super awesome of you. Do we have any other housekeeping or follow-up?
I don't think so, but
So last week we talked about my goats and like how I dewormed them, like sort of in a panic, and because they kept getting diarrhea and whatnot. Well, I guess it wasn't last week; it was 2 weeks ago, so it feels like forever ago. But we got a really great email from Erin, who is a DVM, and she gave us some really great advice that like we totally need to share. And I'm going to share a link to this FAMACHA. I don't know if anybody else calls it that, but that's what I'm calling it. It's the FAMACHA scoring chart for goats' eyelids. You can tell whether or not your goat has an overabundance of worms by peeling back their eyelids and seeing what shade of pink it is. And I had heard of this before she sent me the email, but like the week that my goats were super sick, and I know I didn't talk about it very much, but like, so I had been in pain in my back and my hip for like 3 weeks at that point. I could barely walk anymore. The goats kept having diarrhea. One of them definitely had bloody diarrhea. So I knew that one of them had coccidiosis. And I was just like, I was done. I was like, I have to just like give them everything that I can because I have to get them better and I can't be chasing them down and like holding them down and giving them a bunch of medication and whatnot because I'm like barely surviving as it is myself. And I couldn't tell what their eyelids looked like at the time because I was just like tired. Do you know what I mean, Sam? Like, I just like
Yeah.
you get to a point where you're like just like so overwhelmed by everything that's happening. Like you're looking at the picture, you're looking at your goat, and you're like, I don't know what the hell this is. Like I can't tell if it matches or not. But I'm so glad that she sent us this email because yes, this FOMACHA chart is super important because you don't want to just like willy-nilly deworm your goats because there are only so many deworming medications on the market right now for specific worms. And what is happening is similar to what's happening with antibiotics, where we're creating worms and parasites in our farm animals that are resistant to the tools that we have to treat them. So this FOMACHA chart is super useful. And this is the
Right.
best one that I've seen. This was not one that I looked at when I was trying to determine whether or not to worm. So I'm super thankful to have this. And it talks about a bunch of different types of parasites that goats can get. So yeah, that's going to be in the show notes so that everybody can get some benefit from this. And oh my gosh, I just love this picture of the holding up the card right next to the goat's eyelids and like what part of the goat's eyelids you're supposed to look at. Like it's incredibly helpful. It's the most helpful thing I've seen like on this FOMACHA thing. So thank you so much, Erin, for sending us that email because we think that that's super helpful. So if anybody else ever has any follow-up like that for something that we talk about, send it. We'll talk about it. We'll look it over. We'll share it with everybody because like that's the purpose of our podcast.
I just really appreciated that. She's like, this is unsolicited, so you can stop reading if you want to. It's like she clearly gets us. But no, it was good content, and I appreciated that somebody was kind enough to write that detailed of an email to us, like, and thought it was so important for us to share. So good job, Erin. Cheers to you. I would give you a beer if I was in person with you. So yeah.
And she's a rural vet in an area of North Carolina. So
Yeah.
she
So
probably really liked our chat about
she
like,
knows what
our
she's
rural
talking
vet
about.
thing that we were talking about. So yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm super thankful that a vet listens to us and follows up with some of the stuff that we say. Because like we say, like all we're doing is sharing our experience. That's like the best we can do. Because neither of us are formally trained in anything overly useful. I mean, Sam's formally theater trained,
No.
so
Yeah. So I can fake my way through a lot of this farm stuff.
aren't we
That's about
all
it.
faking our way through like just about everything that we're doing?
I think so in some
Yeah.
ways. Yeah. In some ways, I think
I
we
think
all
so
are.
too. So thanks, Erin. We loved your email. I'm sad that it took us 2 weeks to have to talk about it, but I'm super excited that we get to share about it now. So yeah, all that info will be in the show notes. If anybody else has any follow-up, send it over. We read it all. You can email us at drinkandfarm@gmail.com.
Yes.
And something else that we talked about last week was keeping chickens cool. And Homesteaders of America shared an article by Amy Fuel about keeping chickens cool. And I loved her advice. I sort of struggled. I struggled with the title of the article because it says they don't need your help. But then she lists all the ways that we can help them. So your animals do need your help to keep cool. So I'll just say that. That's my opinion, especially because we live in areas, or both Sam and I live in areas, you guys may not, but we typically have mild summers. Like they're not crazy hot, but we've had
Comparatively,
a lot of days lately, like where it really has been hot. And I think that in those extreme circumstances, like you absolutely have to go like a little bit like further to help your animals stay cool because they're just not used to it. Like we had multiple days here in a row where it was over 90 and the heat index was actually over 100, which is super weird for Ohio.
Yeah.
Because like it just does not get that hot here. That's why I moved here, because I was trying to escape the 100-degree heat of Phoenix. And so far this summer has been quite a dick to me. So thanks a lot, Mother Nature. You're still on my shit list.
You better watch it before, Yeah, she brings like a October snow or something
God, she better
ridiculous
not.
like that.
Uh,
You better be
but there
nice
was a
to
lot of
her.
stuff in this article that I really liked. Like don't hose your chickens off. Yeah, chickens don't like being hosed. It's funny. I never
No.
think of the things that like we have to say not to do. I usually just like say the things that you should do, and I just like assume that like the things that we didn't mention are possibly don'ts.
You have to think about like warning labels though, like how obvious some of those are. That means somebody's done it before. So sometimes it doesn't hurt to say the things you shouldn't do, just because sometimes people learn the
Right.
hard way. So yes, don't hose down your chickens. They will hate you, and it's
Yes.
bad for them.
But I also wanted to mention, like, she says not to use frozen water jugs, but we had our meat chickens in a chicken tractor. And during the hottest part of the day, the only part that they could get shade in was like under the covered area that we had built for it. So they were all kind of jam packed in there, which was just making it hotter. We set the tractor up so that it had tons of ventilation. So they were, if it was a breezy day, they were at least getting some ventilation through it. But we had a lot of days where it was over 90, the heat index was over 100. They were all packed in the covered area and they weren't getting any ventilation because the air wasn't moving. So I did take buckets of ice water and stuck them in like the corners of the tractor so that it would sort of cool the air as it was sort of going in there. And the chickens would kind of gather around the bucket to stay cool. I honestly believe that that saved their lives. Because when I opened that tractor, you should have seen the look on all of those meat chickens' faces. Like it was like they were panting, they were wide-eyed, like they
Yeah.
looked like they were getting ready to have heat stroke. And you can't bring an animal like just inside to cool them off really quickly from heat stroke because that will also cause their body to go into shock. So the best I could do was just like cool down the things that they were consuming. So yes, that's why I thought that this was worth talking about because lots of people saw this and we talked about it last week. So it was like a fun follow up.
Yeah. And I just feel like, too, if they're in a coop where there's very little to no ventilation and it's hot as balls in there, because if it's like 100 outside, it's probably like at least 10 degrees warmer in your coop, depending on what kind of coop setup you have. So we absolutely have a fan in ours to keep the ventilation going through the coop. It's not necessarily that they're pointed directly at anybody. It's just to keep the air moving in there because, like, I'm sorry, I don't want to go in there either when it's that hot. So I think there are always, flexibility and an exception to the rule. Maybe don't go as extreme as, like we said, hosing down your chickens, but you kind of have to use some common sense when you're doing this sort of thing. And it's uniquely hot in your area. Just like we don't recommend heating the coop, there are sometimes exceptions to that too. Not full on like heating your coop, like controlled temperature or anything, but there are like nesting pads and like mounted things that kind of even look like a flat screen. There are always things that you can safely do that, and then the chicken has the option to go buy it if it wants to, but I wouldn't recommend forcing an animal to be in a situation that they can't get away from. So you got to kind of play it by ear sometimes.
Oh yeah. But yeah, like the rest of the stuff was all sort of like no-brainer stuff. Like you got to give your animals shade, you got to give them lots of cold water, like healthy treats, all of that good stuff.
And I'm sorry, but my chickens love frozen watermelon, so I'm not cutting out the frozen treats for them because I would get the nasty side eye if they no longer got frozen watermelon on a very hot
Well,
day.
and my grablito would be way less fun if it didn't have ice in it. I don't know. Maybe that's just my opinion.
Yeah. I feel like our chickens have been acclimated to a different lifestyle than maybe her chickens have. I don't know her chicken's life. I know mine. They're like a little bougie sometimes. So you can't take that away from them once they live that kind of
That's true,
lifestyle.
right? But I'll share a link to that article because we had talked about like keeping chickens cool, but we didn't like link to anything specific about keeping chickens cool. But I saw this last week. It was topical. It's timely from when we talked about it. So I was like, hey, we should talk about this on the podcast. So there we go. So I'll link to that in the show notes for you guys so you can read it also.
Hey Bev, what repels insects and pests, increases pH to sweeten crops, sanitizes chicken coops, stables, and barns, and does about 20 other things?
I don't know, Sam. What?
For Saturday Lime, the organic, very, very safe to the point where you can eat it, but I don't recommend that, lime product that you can use all over your farm and in your house. Well, more outside your house, but you get what I'm saying.
It's safe to use inside your house. Yeah, and totally don't eat
Yes.
it because it is not made of ground up limes.
No, and while it looks kind of like cake powder, it's definitely not.
No, 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 no.
But that's the consistency of it, and I love that I can take that stuff out of the package with my bare hands if I forget my little scoopy and just spray it and make it rain all over the chicken coop.
Yeah, because it's totally safe for chickens to ingest, to roll in. It's totally fine for them to breathe it in because, unlike diatomaceous earth, it doesn't have any silica in it. So it's safe for lungs and it doesn't burn your animals or your hands like regular hydrated lime does.
Yes. So you guys just have to try this if you haven't already, or if you have before. You can still go to firstsaturdaylime.com and use our promo code at checkout. It is hashtag drink, and you will get 10% off.
And you can use that code every time you lime. Because remember, it's first Saturday lime. 'Cause you're supposed to use it every first Saturday.
So I got my actual, like, full confirmed necropsy results back today in the mail. They've actually been done since last Thursday, but I didn't want to call on Friday when I was preparing to drive down to the alefest because, like, I knew it probably wasn't going to be super great, whatever they said, but I didn't want it to, like, ruin my whole weekend. I don't know if that's, like, super selfish or whatever, but I was, like, avoiding it, so I didn't call. But I did get it in the mail today, and it's not Merrick's, which is great. However, it is avian leukosis, which is like its own separate hot mess. Now, luckily, it's not super contagious, as you know, Merrick's is passed through the air. Avian leukosis, I think I kind of touched on it before, but it can be passed from mom to baby chick through the egg. But you can still eat the eggs, obviously. So it's passed that way. It can be passed from one chick in a brooder to its other brooder mates. It can be passed through mating, and it can also be passed through like lice, mites, and I can't remember what the other bug was called, but basically like bug bites. They can get it that way too, which is crazy because basically what Flash had was multicentric avian leukosis, which I believe multicentric maybe means, it's bad that I didn't Google this yet, but I think that means it's like multiple places. It's not focused in like one spot of her body. And it makes sense because symptoms for that include basically like anorexia, the greenish diarrhea, and just like sudden passings. Once you realize that they're sick like that, it can be kind of hard to come back out of. Now, we haven't lost anybody, knock on wood, and I think over 2 weeks now. So I'm hoping that maybe she just had a comorbidity because she did have mild parasitism, and something like coccidiosis can kind of come across as like this disease as well. So I'm hoping the other ones maybe just had something similar. I don't know. It's super difficult to know who patient 0 was because Flash was over a year old, and typically these symptoms are dormant for like 4 to 6 months. So maybe she just had it. We had the other ones that had passed. They were all kind of similar in age. They were all right about at that 4-month mark. So I'm thinking that I either got a chick from somewhere or one of the adults that I hatched from maybe has it, but they don't show signs. Maybe it's dormant in their system, or they'll never pass from it. It could just be a genetic thing that skipped a generation. It's super hard to tell, but now I know what it is. I believe I could get like my whole flock tested. I don't know how much that costs, but for now I'm just going to cut off selling hatching eggs and selling chickens. I might start hatching some of my own. I think I'm going to go ahead and get the chick order I was going to get and just keep them quarantined for as long as possible. Just keep them completely separate because it's so hard to tell like how they got it. And this one isn't airborne. So I think it'll be okay. But the fact that they can get it through mating is a little dicey. So I think we are going to go ahead and have to cull a couple of roosters. Not all of them, but some of them.
because I'm not comfortable giving them away without having them tested, and I don't know what that price point looks like. So that's kind of where that's at. It's a relief that we know now, but it's still kind of annoying because I still don't understand where exactly it came from. But a lot of these chicken diseases, you can't nail it down. And you just have to come to terms with the fact that it's probably not your fault. One of the things I did read today, though, that did kind of piss me off was, oh, if you get your chickens from a reputable breeder, you know, you won't have these issues because they track this. Well, I'm sorry. If one of my chickens got lice or mites, which can just randomly happen because if they go outside, it could happen because there's wild birds everywhere, and that lice or that mite has this disease, and they bite the bird, and now they have it. There's a dormancy of 4 to 6 months. So it's kind of bullshit to say, oh, if you're buying from a reputable breeder, this won't be a problem. No, it can happen to anybody. So, you know, don't think that you're completely safe just because of who you're buying from, because some of these diseases are insanely difficult to track. So you just got to be careful and keep in mind that these things do happen. It's not necessarily your fault. And yeah.
Well,
so I'll get off my
so
soapbox,
you know what
but...
I really hate about that statement, that like, oh, if you are only buying your chickens from a reputable breeder, like, so define a reputable breeder, because like what you're doing, in my opinion, is reputable. You're a small hobby farm. You take good care of your chickens, and you're doing your best to breed them responsibly so that you can get like the best like genetic combinations that you can, or the things that you think people will like or find useful. And then something like this happens in your flock. Like, obviously, because you're small, you don't do all of the testing that like some of the bigger like chick breeders might do, but like bigger chick breeders also put male roosters in the chicken Vitamix. So like that's not reputable to me either, because that's not ethically in line with how I want my farm principles to be. Like, does that make sense?
No, absolutely. And the funny thing is, too, is that NPI P certification doesn't screen for avian leukosis because it's one of those diseases that's actually kind of difficult to screen for. And I'm like, I found some kits that might work for that, but I don't like know how trustworthy they are. So it's like knowing if you're gonna, you know, invest in that sort of thing or not. And it's a bitch trying to buy anything online if you're not a vet. So maybe our DMV friend or DVM friend, Erin, can let us know if there's a test for that, because I'd be super interested in what she has to say about it, or anybody else that has experience in this, because I'm sure somebody listening knows something that, you know, I just don't know, because I'm still Googling and learning, obviously. But even though somebody's NPIP, that only covers a certain amount of things. And again, this one's kind of hard to catch. So same as Merrick's. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, we just can't beat ourselves up. I think it's the responsible thing to do is, if you can, get a necropsy. If you can't get a necropsy, stop selling and hatching chicks until you know what's going on, through whatever means necessary, just for the, you know, the quality of life for your birds. And you don't want to be spreading disease unknowingly. You might think it's coccidiosis or sauerkraut, but a lot of the times these diseases have comorbidities that mask as something else. So I'm really hoping, because I've successfully, knock on wood, I feel like this is the episode of knocking on wood.
Sam and Bev knock on a lot of wood. Episode title.
That sounds so dirty, but there you go. It was so easy this week to find out what we're gonna call this one. What was I? Oh, I feel like I've successfully treated a few birds, so I wonder if coccidiosis or coxy or whatever the bird version is, the one where they poop really bad things because of
it's an
parasite
overabundance
in
of
their
a
stomach.
specific type of parasite.
Yeah, because they all have diarrhea. It's super hard to know in the summer too.
I was gonna say,
because they're
everybody
drinking
at
more
my
water,
farm has
if it's diarrhea or if they're hydrated,
because they're drinking way too much water.
Yes. So I've been treating them with Corid in their water. So what I've been doing is 10 cc's per gallon of the liquid Corid in water, and that seems to be working for them. So part of me hopes that like it was just cancer and maybe like one chicken, like knock on wood, or maybe a few, but now it's over. I'm pretty convinced at this point that I got a chick from someplace else that had it. I can't confirm it and I can't nail down exactly where I got it from because I got a couple groups of chicks around the same time because Sam has no self-control during chick season. But you know, it's something that might have slipped through the cracks. It's not necessarily anybody's fault. But Corid and Nutridrench have helped a few recover very nicely. So we'll see long term how it works out for them. But they were kind of in that same
Nutridrench
age
is what
group.
I give chickens or goats if they seem like they're a little under the weather. It seems to just give them like the right boost of like nutrition and electrolytes, and just to kind of like give them a little hump over if like their immune system is struggling with something. So yeah, that's great advice. And you know, it's tough too because like, so I guess I don't really fit into this because I only have 10 chickens and I'm probably not getting any more. Although the lady, the hatching egg lady, she contacted me again. She's like, hey, I'm sorry, I totally forgot about you. I can give you hatching eggs whenever you're ready. This was like when I was like laying on the floor dying and I couldn't get comfortable. So I was like, I'm like, we have a trip coming up. I'll contact you after we get back. I don't know. Jared and I are going to have to talk about whether or not we still want to take those hatching eggs because at this point, it's mid-July. They're not going to be of laying age before it gets too cold and dark for them to start laying. So I'll have to feed them like all the way through the winter before they lay their first egg. I don't necessarily mind that, but we have to talk about whether or not we want to do that because like it is also one more thing to take care of. And right now Jared's doing all the farm chores because he doesn't want me to pick up anything. So,
Right.
yeah, I don't know. We might not be hatching more chickens.
I will say though, I did hatch chicks around the eclipse last year, so it was like end of August, and they were laying
Were they?
like by
Okay.
December,
So maybe
January.
they will be. We'll see. But anyways, where I was going with that was that like because we love chickens and we're so excited about getting new ones. I mean, I know there's a lot of you guys that go to like really neat chicken shows to like go pick up cool breeds that you can't necessarily get from other places. Some of you order from really great like reputable online places. Then there are like some people really like won't order from any hatcheries whatsoever because of some of the less happy hatchery practices that we know are out there. But like quarantining your birds is something that you can definitely do to try to help. But like in Sam's case, you would have had to quarantine for 4 to 6 months, which is just insane. Nobody's going to quarantine that long because nobody has enough room for that. Like it's just like that's outside the realm of like normal expectation or possibility. So like these weird funky things can totally happen to you, but like I told Sam when she sent me the message, I was like, this is just an example of like sometimes shit happens, like the shittiest shit ever happens sometimes.
Right.
And there's this like there's nothing you can do to prevent it, nothing you can do to like foresee it. It just happens.
And like too, I was telling Bev, I actually gave somebody two hatching like or two chicks from a group around that same age frame or age range, and the girl that I gave them to that I know, she messaged me and she's like, one of them's like really lethargic and skinny and da da da, and I was like, mother effer, like I instantly like my stomach like hit the floor, like my stomach was in my ass because I felt so bad because it's like, oh my god, this is my fault. Even though I didn't know exactly what the diagnosis was until today, I knew that it could possibly be something that, you know, that happened because of me. Not that I had any way of knowing because of this dormancy period, and it wasn't malicious, and I know I'm going to cut it off now. I'm not giving anybody any hatching eggs, any chicks anytime soon until I know it's completely out of the flock. I still, because I have such a, I'm kind of a hard ass sometimes, but I never wish any ill will on people's animals, especially. I'm the kind of person that gets more upset in a movie when an animal dies than a person dies. So, like the fact that she went through something similar, that kind of pain, and this was her first ever loss, there comes some kind of guilt with that. So I'm going to have to tell her, these are my autopsy results or necropsy results. This is what, this is what happened. Luckily, it was a chick, or it was a hen, so there was no mating going on. The likelihood of it spreading to any of the other birds is very small. So I'll at least be able to tell her that much. And she's been wanting one of my baby bunnies, so I might just give her a free baby bunny. I was like, I'm sorry, here's a baby bunny to bring you joy. But I'm sure she'll understand. She's a really cool person. But I still feel so bad. But I know there are people out there that would knowingly still sell hatching eggs and chicks. So
I like to think that those people are in the minority.
I just have to cling to my scruples. Yes, they're in the minority, but I should just cling to my scruples and feel like I did the best I could as far as getting that necropsy done, paying out the ass for it, so I would know and stop the spread of this horrible, incurable disease. So I think that's enough doom and gloom for today.
Well, and so it's funny. We didn't have an episode for a couple of weeks because I was so down and out. And I realized that the episode before, I totally forgot to talk about how cool it was to watch our turkeys hatch. Like, I can't believe I was so out of it. I think that just tells everybody how much pain I was really in. Like, I couldn't even hardly enjoy that. Sadly, my family wasn't even here, so I got to watch all of them hatch all by myself. But, oh my gosh, it was so cool to watch the first one hatch. I, can't even describe it. I don't have any, great places to post videos. Maybe I can send it to Sam, and Sam can, put it on the Patreon for me. The very first one hatching, it was super cool.
Oh yeah.
And it was super funny to see how big turkeys are inside of a chicken incubator. Because they kind of walk in there kind of hunched over because they can't stand all the way up because they're so much bigger. But my favorite part of all was when the very first one hatched. It started just running back and forth in the incubator, knocking all of the eggs over like a drunk toddler. And I messaged Sam, and I'm like, oh my God, this first turkey is going to kill all the rest of them. And she's like, no, that's just what they do. It's fine. Let him dry off in there, and then you can pull him out, and then all the rest of the eggs will be safe. But it was so funny. That guy, the very first one, I called all of them boys for some reason. I don't know what any of them are. Honestly, they all still look exactly the same, even though they're 3 or 4 weeks old at this point. They all look identical, so I have no idea what anybody is yet. But that poor guy was by himself for a good 24 hours before another turkey hatched. It was so fun that whole week. They liked to hatch in the middle of the night while I was sleeping, so I would fall asleep and the incubator would just be buzzing. I stuck it in my room because I'm a crazy person, and when nobody else is home, I let the dogs roam free at night so that they can alert me if anybody else is around my house. But I was afraid that if a turkey hatched and the incubator was out in the living room while the dogs were roaming, they'd knock it over to get to it, because my dogs are also kind of jerks like that. So I brought it into my room so that I could kind of keep an eye on them. And so I'd be woken up at 3:30 in the morning by incessant peeping. I'm like, oh, another turkey hatched. But yeah, that's my turkey hatching story. 9 out of 10 eggs hatched, which was super awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I could not believe that. What are the odds of that? And their nests had been run over by a bush hog. Holy cow.
Yeah, no, that's really good.
And that was my first hatch ever. Sometimes I think that I just end up with beginner's luck on things. Because my very first batch of baby chicks, all of them survived until Artemis died of sauerkraut 8 months later. And with these eggs, and the one that didn't hatch, I knew it wasn't going to, because the day that I got it, I checked it and the air sac wasn't intact. So now I know if there's no air sac, I'm going to check those eggs. I'm not going to mess with those anymore. And then with my meat chickens also, all of them survived. I got extras because I was expecting to only end up with 10. All 13 of them lived. So I got some beginner's luck sometimes. I don't think I do anything special. I just do my best, which is the only advice I can give anybody else. So yeah.
Right. It's all you can do.
Right. But I did have a turkey poult die. I don't really know exactly what happened, but when I went out there, they were like a week and a half old. I went out there in the morning to feed them, and one of them was just laying on the bottom of the brooder. I don't really know what happened. I think he might have been crushed by all the others, because at night they kind of pile up, and I think he was at the bottom of the pile. So that's all the sadness I'm going to give you, though. The turkey poults are adorable.
Happens.
Yeah. But the turkey poults are going back to the farmer whose hen died. I thought that would be the nice thing to do. So I'm not going to have turkey poults for too long.
Aww.
Just long enough for them to feather out and be able to survive without a mama turkey. Because the old farmer doesn't know how to take care of baby animal things. So I'm going to take care of him until he can take over. And I'll give him back. And maybe I'll get my
foster turkey mom.
I'm a foster turkey mom. I used to be a foster dog mom in Arizona, so this is no surprise. I'm sure that this will not be the only kind of animal for me to foster, so there will probably be lots of foster stories. Plus, I'm sort of going through and like reevaluating some things, since like I've obviously had like this semi-serious health issue. I'm trying to make sure that I don't like end up overwhelming myself anymore, or overwhelming my family when I'm not capable of doing it. But yeah, we've talked about my back and my hip pain. I guess I can just be like really clear about what's going on. So it turns out that if you know anything about spines, my L5, which is like the lowest bone in my spine, it's right above your S1, which is your tailbone. That space, there's normally like a nice like cushiony bit of I don't know what it is. It's like fluid and cartilage and stuff that like helps keep your spine healthy and all of your nerves like acting the way that they're supposed to. That space is like gone in my back. So it's not surprising that I've ended up with this issue, and it's something that's been going on for a really long time. I've had hip issues for like the last 2 years or so. I kind of chalked it up to just like being in my 30s and getting old and being too active and not listening to myself. But yeah, because that space is gone, when one of my joints don't get the right amount of movement or stiffen up, it pinches that nerve. So that's why I get the pain down my hip and all the way down to my foot. Right now, like I can't feel part of my hamstring and like the side of my foot. It's like totally numb. It's kind of a weird feeling. I don't know how to describe it. Like if you stabbed it, I'd know that you were touching it, but I wouldn't necessarily like feel the pain from it. So this is something I'm going to be kind of messing with like for a long time, I think. I mean, maybe not. Well, I'll probably be maintaining it for forever. I don't think I'm going to be limping or not feeling my foot for forever. I think I've just got a few more weeks. We're going to do like PT. I've been doing a really great yoga video that's on YouTube, and I'll share a link to it in the show notes, that if anybody else has back issues similar to what I've got, it's called Yoga for Sciatica by Yoga with Adriene. It's super awesome. It's a 30-minute practice that like just stretches like your piriformis muscles and some of your like back and hamstrings, and it sort of like strengthens some of those inner core muscles, which are the hardest ones for us to reach, and like, you know, why you do things like throw your back out or like throw a hip out. So I'm trying not to add too many new things. The podcast is the most exciting thing I'm trying to do right now.
Right, but you do still need a donkey, and I did hear your husband say something about a donkey for you, so I feel like it's gonna happen.
Yeah, I think
regardless.
that might happen.
But then
too.
you can like ride the donkey around, or have like set up a sleigh and let the donkey like pull you around. So there's that.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, the donkey will be like for protection for the goats and the chickens and whatnot, which will be super handy. Like, I don't know, like protecting your animals, like when you aren't around, like that like helps ease burdens. So yeah, so I'm looking to do more things that ease burdens rather than add to burdens at the moment. But you
That's
know,
fair.
Right now I'm just like, you know, like it's weird. I was out for an entire week. It felt like months though. And I think part of that is just like because I haven't really been feeling like myself necessarily for months, which is funny. Because like you and I have only been talking for months, so I hope that like I wasn't the real me this whole time. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
I feel like I was still like the real me. I was just like the distracted real me. I don't know how else to describe it.
That makes sense.
But yeah, so now that I'm sort of like reorganizing and trying to make sure that I get all the things done. Because, like I got a real job and I love this podcast. And this podcast is kind of like another job. And I do have a second job too. I guess since Teresa talked about it, I can talk about it on our podcast. The other thing that I do is I'm a virtual assistant for Teresa from the Living Homegrown podcast. You probably put that together, or most people probably put that together already though, since I'm on there so often and talk about it so much. So it's my side gig.
Yeah, we need to hire one of those for us, though.
We do. When we have some money, we'll get a virtual assistant. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know farm people are always looking for side gigs because it's nice to be able to help pay for some of the like farming side stuff. Plus, just like as a natural tendency, we tend to be like semi like debt-free advocates and other things. So
yes.
Yeah, that's why side gigs are fun. This podcast is one of them. The Living Homegrown podcast is my other one. I'm getting better at balancing all the things, though. And now that my brain is clear, I feel like I'm going to do much better. So this podcast is only going to get better. There you go.
You're welcome, world.
Thanks, sciatic nerve, for putting me back in my place and helping me reevaluate my life.
Yes, that was your body's way of saying slow down.
You are adding too many things at once, which we recently dispatched of some things on the farm in a happy way, or as happy as we possibly could have.
Yeah.
We processed our meat chickens, so I can talk about it to the point that I can, but then so we dispatched 4 of them the last day that I was upright. So I was like sort of out of it because I was seriously in so much pain. I can't even describe it. And then my husband and his dad had to do the other 7 of them because I couldn't walk. I was stuck in our bedroom for like 5 days straight. I didn't leave the room, except I crawled out to the porch a few times because I needed some fresh air. But I didn't leave the room upright for 5 days at least. But yeah, I did get to talk, because we got to do this really nice road trip together. It was like our date road trip, going to go meet Sam and her husband.
Aww.
Because we had to miss our bourbon trail the weekend before since I was in the emergency room instead. So I don't get to talk about the bourbon trail, unfortunately. But I get to talk about dispatching the meat chickens. It went well, and my husband did not mind it as much as I thought he was going to. I thought that he would think that it was more work than was worth it. Like, that was the feedback I was totally expecting, especially since he had to do the majority of it, like, towards the end. And especially, like, the dirtiest part of it. Like, let's face it, like, the actual dispatching of the animal is, like, the worst part of raising any type of meat animal. But he and his dad did a great job, and he said they got a system down. It was relatively easy and painless, like, once they got it figured out. So he did say that he thinks we're going to raise meat chickens again next year. We were hoping to do another set this year before it got cold, because we have enough time now. We could do 2 more sets before it got too cold for them outside. But with my back and my hip, I told him I don't want to do any more this year. I was the one that decided we weren't going to do another set. Just because dragging their tractor around, I think, was part of what irritated my issues that I already had existing, because I was moving them 3 times a day because my goal was to raise them as humanely as possible. So even though they were stuck in a small tractor, I was moving them to fresh grass as soon as I saw that their patch of grass was really nasty, because meat birds are kind of gross. They poop a lot. And I was also making sure that they were, like, in the right places for the right time of day. So if it was really hot, I was trying to put them in a shady spot so that they could cool off, to the best of their ability and whatnot. And they were a lot of work to raise that way. So we're going to spend the winter reevaluating how we did this and see if we can do it a little easier. And my husband and his dad are working on redesigning the chicken tractor so that we have bigger and better wheels on it. Because otherwise our chicken tractor really required 2 people to move it. I did it by myself for 10 days while everybody was gone, and that was very much to my detriment. I should have gone and asked a neighbor to come and help me, but I couldn't go, like, ask somebody to help me 3 times a day. I felt like that was overkill.
Right.
So yeah, we did a couple of things a little different, I think. For the most part, like, butchering chickens is just kind of butchering chickens. We used a cone setup, We got a traffic cone, and I cut part of it out. It was a really big traffic cone because I wanted it to be big enough for the big meat chickens. And we cut part of it out because otherwise it was too long and we couldn't get their heads all the way through it. We let them rest in there upside down until they calmed down. And then we chopped their head off a jugular vein first so that it went as fast as possible, because we didn't want it to be like a long, drawn out, painful, dramatic process. That was not our goal. Our goal was to do it as easily as possible. One of these days I really want to learn how to do the neck snap. Have you seen that done, Sam?
Oh, yeah. I've seen it, but I'm like so scared that I'm going to do it wrong. And like my husband, like I was saying, he needs to dispatch a couple of the roosters. So I don't know if he's going to try to do that or how he's going to do it, but I'm like, I don't know if I want to watch until he's got it down.
Yeah,
because that if it went wrong, oh man.
I really want I want somebody to come to my farm and teach me how to do that so that I can like learn hands-on, because I feel like that would be a little more humane. Like obviously they die right off the bat when you cut their heads off, so hopefully they're not feeling any more pain, but they do a lot of like fighting and kicking and movement. It's a very messy process. Like we had to put a board over the bottom of the cone to keep them from kicking out, and they kicked and moved for an alarmingly long time. So our next one, we're going to try to do it a little better. One thing that we did differently too was we used what is it? It's the pine shavings like that you would put in a chick brooder. We put those in the bucket over the blood and the head of the previous chicken so that it could still like all compost down and get thrown into the fields to break down and not just have to go in the garbage. But we didn't want the chicken that was going in next to have to look down and see the head and blood of a previous chicken. So we were trying to do it like, you know, friendly and humanely. And something else that we did too is I know a lot of people just bring the tractor over to the butchering area so that you can pull them out one by one and do it quickly. We left them out on their pasture so that they were still doing their normal everyday lives. And we were walking out there and getting each one individually. And like what we did was we just sort of like talked to them and like pet them while we were walking over. And then while we got set up, we let them free range in the weed patches because we don't have garden beds at my house. We just have weed beds. But the chickens really love them because they get to eat the weeds and eat all the bugs. So they got like, you know, 5 minutes of just kind of like free ranging, pecking around, like enjoying themselves before we actually did it, because we were doing them one at a time. We did every piece one at a time, which was not the most efficient, but for new butchers, I feel like that's the best way to start, because then you don't end up with meat rotting or too many flies or forgetting to do a step. Like it's just really nice to take your time and do them one by one. And it took us 5 days to finish all 13 because we only did like 2 or 3 a day. Or maybe it wasn't quite that long. We started on a Wednesday and they ended on a Sunday. So yeah, it was 5 days. Holy cow. Yep.
It sounds like it was kind of like death row though, where they got their last meal.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and you know, it was kind of tough to do too, because like you want to take their feet away before they're going to get butchered. Because it's easier with an empty crop. Although, you know, I did 2 that had full crops and it wasn't so bad. And I used to help my uncle process deer when I was like 11 in Montana. So I am familiar with like the cleaning process and whatnot. So I was pretty good at getting, like, I didn't break any gallbladders. I didn't rip apart any intestines. Like I did a pretty good job cleaning them out. Take a good knife to do it all. The only advice that I would share is like, we couldn't find anything online that said exactly how long you were supposed to dip them for if you were plucking feathers. The very first one I held in there for 60 seconds, and that was far, far too long. It only needs to be like 3 seconds. You pick them up, shake them, pull a feather, and if it doesn't come out really easily, hold it back down in there for 3 seconds, pull it back out, try to pull the feathers. When they come out like butter, you're done. I only ever had to dip a bird twice. And
that's not
the
bad.
other suggestion that I wanted to share was I had trouble finding information on how long you're supposed to let them rest in the fridge for. I got a lot of conflicting information. Some of the birds, 4 of the birds rested for 7 days. Most of them rested for between 5 and 3 days. 5 and 3 days is the sweet spot. 7 days I feel like was too long. They didn't go bad, but they had a smell to them, and I prefer my chicken to not smell like anything. We'll still eat them though. I'm gonna roast them and cover them. They didn't like smell bad. They just you could smell it. And like I kept telling my husband, I'm like, I can smell these ones. I'm like, this was too long. 7 days is too long. The 5 days and younger ones, you couldn't smell a thing. And they were like very pliable. They fit in our food saver bags very nicely. All of them ended up being about 4 pounds and 11 ounces, all the way up to like 5 pounds 15 ounces was our biggest chicken. So they were all like right in a really good sweet spot.
Oh, dang.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I realized I should have added up what our cost was, and I didn't do that. So that'll be follow up next week.
Your to-do list.
That way people can find out whether it's worth it, like to raise your own.
Yeah.
And I was super happy because I got to share 2 with I gave one to my in-laws and one to my sister-in-law. So within my first year of homesteading, I got to share meat and eggs.
Hey,
my vegetable patch
that's really good.
is awful, but that's all right. I'm sharing meat and eggs. And it'll be milk next year, maybe.
Ooh, yeah.
So that's my chicken butchering story.
Yeah.
I'm glad I did it. My husband's glad we did it. So hopefully we'll do more next year when I'm feeling
There you
better.
go. And then maybe by then you'll want to try some other kind of poultry too, now that you're a professional.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, turkeys have been on my list for a long time because I'd really like to do a farm fresh Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
so
that would be great.
maybe next year. Maybe I should learn how to like plant the sweet potatoes and do like all the Thanksgiving vegetables first before I go on to like the bird.
One step at a time.
Yeah. Well, thanks for listening to this episode of We Drink and We Farm Things, guys. It was this is always a great time for us. We hope it's a great time for you.
Yeah. So make sure you're following us over on Instagram at Drink and Farm, because we like to post things there daily for you. And you can always send us questions, or if you have any funny farm stories, just feel free to hit us up in our DMs or to email us at drinkandfarm@gmail.com.
Yeah, that's all we got. So drink
Farm
and give zero clucks.